Thank you. Thank you all for coming. My name is Joe Lichtenberg, and I am responsible for product marketing and industry marketing with InterSystems, based out of our corporate office in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And I am delighted to be here in your beautiful city today, and I'm glad that the rain held off. I hear this is the rainy season, so it's been just beautiful and fantastic to be here, and thank you all for coming. So in my role at InterSystems, I have a very interesting role. So I'm fortunate enough to be able to go and really meet with all of our customers and our partners and our sales teams around the world to understand the business challenges that they're faced with, and from a technology standpoint, what they're implementing, what they're trying to do, their challenges, their successes. So it's really an interesting perch that I have on not only our customers, but on a variety of different industries. And so that's in large part what I would like to talk to you about today. For those of you that are familiar with InterSystems, we have very exciting news, and I'll talk about InterSystems Iris in a lot more detail. So there's a lot of new functionality that I think you'll find incredibly useful and valuable in your initiatives and your projects. For those of you that are new to InterSystems who may not be aware of the company or aren't working with us yet, I'd like to talk in a little more detail and expand on what Hiroshi talked about. So you may not be aware, but we are probably the largest software company, and certainly the largest data management software company that you may never have heard of if you have not heard of us. We have been in business for 40 years, and we've grown revenue and earnings over the 40 years every year. We're consistently profitable. And so that gives us the ability to strategically reinvest in the company. We have 7 million production licenses at accounts in 80 countries around the world. We work with 1,200 different partners, implementation partners, and service providers, and ISVs or software firms. So even if you have not heard of us, we're like the Intel inside in the data management space. So we are inside applications that you may be using every day that you're certainly familiar with. So in financial services, we're processing 15% of the equity trades worldwide every single day. In the healthcare space, we're managing the health records of 500 million people around the world. So you may not have heard of our technology, but we've been powering mission-critical applications in a variety of industries that you're most likely working with if you execute a stock trade or when you go to the hospital or in a variety of other industries. So what I'd like to really talk to you about is what we're seeing in different industries around the world, and really focus on what we're seeing here in Japan. And although different industries may have different use cases and different initiatives when it comes to what they call digital transformation, and even within an industry from company to company, the initiatives might be different. We see commonality across those different types of initiatives, and I hope you find that interesting. So that's what I plan to talk to you about for the next 30 minutes or so. So again, what are the common drivers that we see across different industries and even within an industry from company to company? So applications today need to be faster and smarter than they ever were before. And we're seeing this pace move more quickly and more rapidly than at any time in the past. The pace of digital transformation and innovation is faster than ever. And I know you see it as well. We certainly see it. So what do we mean when we say applications need to be smarter and faster? So the ability to incorporate new types of analytics, advanced analytics, machine learning, the work of the data scientists, into your business, into real-time business processes. Applications need to be faster, and what I mean by that is to minimize and even eliminate the delay between when an event occurs and the insight that you can glean from it, and the ability to take programmatic actions in real time in a variety of different industries. We need to incorporate not just more data, larger and larger data sets, but data from different sources, right? We're taking data from sources inside the firewall, in the DMZ, outside the firewall. We're connecting to APIs. There's public data. There's all sorts of data. There's social media feeds. There's unstructured text that we have buried in our applications. There's all sorts of data that we can use to be smarter and to drive the business. So our business is really around these mission-critical applications, right? We don't see a lot of these, little apps to do, a small thing. They're really baked into the infrastructure, and so it's critical to be able to work seamlessly with the other applications, not only inside your infrastructure, but those of your business partners, right? And to be able to work with your existing technology stack that you've already invested in your ecosystem. And so interoperability is key. Clearly, the ability to be able to handle more workloads, larger data sets, right? The ability to scale on demand as workloads dictate and as the amount of data dictates are critical. And then finally, and this seems conflicting with all of these increased requirements on the technology side to be able to meet the business goals, organizations are looking to reduce complexity. How can they have it be simpler and less complex to be able to innovate, right? So it seems like these are conflicting requirements. As the requirements grow and the business challenges grow and the technology landscape gets more complex, right? How do we meet our business goals but be able to do it while simplifying? So I'd like to share some analyst data with you. So Hiroshi just mentioned this briefly, but this is very interesting data. This is from the analyst firm IDC, top technology analyst firm. And they surveyed more than 500 executives in a variety of industries around the world about the impact of latency or delays in being able to use the data that's coming in. And Hiroshi showed between 5 and 7 days to analyze the data because you have to take it from your operational systems into your analytics systems and index it and be able to run queries on it, right? There's a significant delay there, and I think 25% of organizations had a delay of more than 14 days. I mean, that's like the opposite of real time, right? So what's interesting is, what does that mean? What's the impact on the business? And so what the pie chart on the left tells us is that more than 75% of those C-level executives in those 500 companies said that it was preventing them from taking advantage of new business opportunities. So think about that, right? Whether it's the ability to compete with upstarts or the ability to create new revenue-generating business services, right? They want to be able to innovate and move the needle from a business standpoint, but they can't do it because of the inability to analyze the live data. And then the pie chart on the right tells us that more than 50% say that it's blocking their ability to streamline the business, to take advantage of operational efficiencies in the business. So lowering latency isn't just, it's not just a race for the sake of a race. It's not just performance for the sake of performance. It's what can you do to impact your business, both in terms of being more strategic, generating more revenue, and being able to streamline your business operations and be more efficient and increase the efficiency and the margins associated with your business, right? So this is really a critical blocking item for organizations. For those of you that are familiar with our technology, you know that we've always been very strong in what we call multi-workload, the ability to process transactions and then run analytics on that data in real time, along with non-real-time data, historical data, reference data, and so on. And so with InterSystems Iris, with our new iteration of our technology, we've enhanced those capabilities even more, and I'll talk to you about that. Simpler. So we all know the technology landscape is it's huge and disparate and scattered, and there's more competitors that I'm reading about every single day. So this is from the 451 group, and this is their database landscape map. So there are literally hundreds of different databases that you can choose from, right? And so that's good and that's bad, right? I mean, there's a lot of options out there, but how do you get your head around all of the different technologies? And do you need a relational database? Do you need an object database? Do you need a document database? Do you need an analytic database? Do you need an operational database, right? There's so many different kinds of databases out there. And this is just the ecosystem for databases, right? The same is true for interoperability and for analytics and for data pipelining and so on, right? And so how can a typical organization, right, get their head around, right, what's the technology that they need to be able to use as an enabler? Because what you're really interested in is how do you move the needle from the business standpoint, right? How do you implement these initiatives around digital transformation that are going to help the business, and how do you accelerate them, right? How do you make them successful, and how do you do it faster with the staff that you already have? So, you know, in light of this, it's really no surprise. This is data from Gartner, another analyst group that I'm sure everybody's familiar with. So they interviewed 2,399 different C-level executives. And they asked them, what are your top barriers to successful digital transformation initiatives? And so it's no surprise that number one, by far, so if you look at the last column on the right, that's the overall total, 2,299 different C-level execs. 26% said number one was the lack of appropriate skilled resources, right? It's no surprise, right? You need to hire and train, and it's a difficult environment anyway to hire strong technology people if you need experts in all of these different technologies, right? And funding and budgets comes in at number two, to buy and integrate and maintain all of these different technologies. So, in light of all of that, right, how can we accelerate digital transformation initiatives and make them more successful? Well, here's one way. So we can heed the words of a pretty smart guy who said this almost 100 years ago. Everything should be made as simple as possible, but not simpler, right? So what can we do to simplify the process of the technology and the work that we need to do to implement these kinds of initiatives, right? And that's what InterSystems is all about. So fortunately, a relatively recent innovation in the data management space is what the industry refers to as a data platform. And a data platform is a single environment, a single piece of technology with one consistent architecture, one single architecture built from the ground up with one architecture and one development paradigm associated with it that incorporates the functionality that you would typically see in different point solutions. So different kinds of databases for relational and non-relational, and operational and analytic, and data pipelining, and interoperability, and analytics, right, and cloud deployment. Everything in one platform to be able to simplify your stack and reduce the number of moving parts to make it simpler and faster for you to be able to implement. Right? So, I mean, I think we all know that there's no silver bullet. There's no one magic technology that's going to have everything that everybody needs to do everything that they need to do, right? I mean, it just doesn't exist, and it probably never will. But this concept of a data platform can really help to simplify the stack and make it easier for you to be able to implement these kinds of initiatives. And depending on how your requirements change going forward, you don't have to go out and acquire and vet new kinds of technology. So what I'd like to do is shift gears a little bit and talk about, as I said earlier, what we see as the key requirements for successful digital transformation initiatives. And based on our long history of working with our customers and our partners and seeing these common requirements across different industries and different use cases, right? That really drove our product roadmap to develop and deliver this next iteration of our technology, where we have this long history of technology. So for those of you that have been customers for a long time, you know we've had Cache as the database, and Ensemble, and natural language processing. And so InterSystems Iris, which we released in January of this year in general availability, right, is a natural progression of all of those technologies. So it builds on all of those capabilities and strengths, but adds a lot of new powerful capabilities. So it's sort of the best of the best in everything that we've learned, and we've added a lot more innovations in large area around these key drivers. And so this is what I would like to talk about. So I'll try to make it a little less abstract and a little more practical. So if you think about Internet of Things, right? In Internet of Things, we're seeing it in almost every industry. We're seeing it in smart cities. We're seeing it in the public sector. We're seeing it in government. We're seeing it in manufacturing, device manufacturers, shipbuilders. I mean, we see it retail and logistics, right? There's a lot of commonality associated with the requirements. Today, there's 9 billion connected devices, and it's growing like crazy. So if you see the chart, 2014 to 2018, and now it's doubling pretty much every year in terms of the number of connected devices. Currently, it's generating more than $4 trillion in total economic impact and continues to grow. So if you're not adopting smart devices, right, your competitors are. It's not only your big competitors, it's also, you need to look in the rearview mirror because there's a lot of upstarts that are doing some pretty innovative and revolutionary things. But if you think about what's required for applications that are using smart devices, right, real time absolutely is huge. You have all of these signals coming in. Analytics is huge. The ability to analyze the data that's coming in real time, right? But also the ability to analyze it in the context of historical data and other data, and not just to look for a sensor reading that is out of range, but to be able to do machine learning and predictive analytics and to look for variations and deviations from trends. Interoperability, to be able to incorporate applications and data from your enterprise applications from other data sources, and obviously the ability to scale. We're talking about, in some cases, tens of thousands of different readings coming in, each one generating, megabytes of data during the cycle time, which could be as short as 10 seconds or 30 seconds, right? So we see these same kinds of requirements that I put up across multiple industries and multiple kinds of use cases. So let me go into some of these in a little more detail, if I may. So let's talk about real time at scale. So it's the ability to incorporate data in real time from essentially any type of source, and the ability to manage it and analyze it, right, at scale, right, which may be, as Hiroshi said, big data scale or huge data scale. And that's what we're seeing with a lot of the IoT and real-time use cases. We also see it in financial services. We see it in logistics. We see it in a lot of different industries. So this is one of our customers, a company called Navantia. They're the 5th largest shipbuilder in Europe. And they make these massive, massive, massive ships. They sell them to industry. They sell them to defense, to military. And the ships cost over $1 billion. They're these large, expensive, complex ships. And they use our technology, they use InterSystems technology as the control center of the ship. It's the brains of the ship. And rather than using a SCADA system, supervisory control system, that their competitors do, right? They wanted to build their own. They wanted to innovate. They wanted to use technology as a strategic weapon. Right? And so they chose InterSystems because of all the reasons that we talked about. And so part of what the system does, the control system does, is it manages 65,000 different real-time signals that are coming in from the sensors, all in real time. And they're analyzing it in a variety of ways, not only with the real-time data, but non-real-time data for predictive maintenance, for a 360-degree control view of everything that's happening in the ship. And in terms of simplicity, they tell us that using our technology reduces development time for additional projects by 80%. So why is this important? So they tell us that competitively, that's a weapon for them. That allows them to win deals, in some cases, just based on the capabilities of that control system, right? So think about it. Like, we like to think that's a big deal because it's our technology, but relative to that ship, it's very, very, very small. It's a $1 billion ship that's massive, that has all of this technology associated with it, but their control system is a strategic weapon that allows them to beat the competition. So that's a great example of using technology as a strategic weapon, right, in your business to really move the needle. Another one of our customers is MSC, the Mediterranean Shipping Company. It's the 2nd largest shipping company in the world. And at any one time, so right now, for example, they're transporting 12 million different containers that all have smart sensors, smart devices on it. And it's all around the world. So you have 12 million containers at any one time, distributed all around the world, going in and out of 270 different shipping ports around the world. So part of the requirements is just being able to track everything in real time. They need to know where the container ships are in real time. Their customers want to know, where is it, when is it going to arrive? And each one of those shipments can have hundreds or thousands of documents associated with it. And those documents, bills of lading and C of O and so on, have different steps, that a workflow that has to be controlled, different signatures that have to be signed off. And different authorized users have to be able to go in and drill down into any one of those documents and seeing what's happened. So logistically, it's quite complex, right? But it's more than that. So if you're familiar with Uber, I assume in Japan, we're familiar with Uber. I rely on it back home. It's very much like an Uber use case as well, because things happen, right? There's storms, there's weather, there's problems with ships, there's problems with ports. Ports get closed, there's strikes, there's delays, right? So just like Uber, right, they need to know, in real time, or to predict if weather is coming in, how they need to change the routing so that the containers still arrive on time, right? So very complex system. Things are always moving. It's always in real time. You need visibility into not only where things are, but to be able to predict in advance how to change course and correction so that you still meet your business requirements and your SLAs. Very interesting what we're seeing in the manufacturing space around the world. Not only here in Japan, but in other countries as well. And Germany, we're doing a lot of work around IoT in the manufacturing space. And so this is one of the partners that we're working with. They are building out a suite of applications for manufacturing companies that span quality management, service call assistance, and predictive maintenance, right? And so their target is companies that make products that they then distribute out in the field, they sell, but they want to continuously have information streaming in from smart sensors on those devices. So think of a car as a really good example, right? But it's really any type of product. So the products now are all becoming smart, and they're continuously streaming data back to the manufacturing company for a variety of business uses, right? So there's a whole set around quality management, of use cases around quality management. So that's about having the data come back into the manufacturing company, right? And being able to have a dashboard to see what's happening with all of your devices in the field, look for errors, for error codes, right? To be able to capture all the information so that you can use it for redesign and engineering. So you can use it to improve manufacturing processes going forward, right? To improve the quality of your parts based on real-time drivers. So you'd like to think that all of your parts and all of your products are operating in perfect, ideal operating conditions, but it doesn't always work that way. Maybe it's wet, maybe it's humid, maybe it's cold, maybe it's hot, who knows, right? So you want to be able to capture all that information for intelligent redesign based on actual operating conditions, right? So it's quality management. It's a whole set of use cases around service call assistance, right? So when a repair vehicle and a repair team needs to go out to service the products, they can get all of the information in advance so that they can minimize the number of repeat service calls that they need, and they minimize the number of times they have to go back for additional parts, right? They know exactly what they need to do. When they go on site, they can fix it. It brings their costs way down. And then, of course, predictive maintenance, right? So the next step then is being able to know in advance when a component is at an elevated risk of failing so that it can be proactively dealt with, right? And especially now, what we're starting to see is these manufacturing companies are changing their pricing models. So rather than having an industrial drill bit sell for 40,000 euros, right? They're billing by the number of holes that it drills. So if it's not drilling a hole, the drill bit manufacturing company isn't making any money. So it immediately impacts their business, their top line revenue, and their bottom line, right? So they want to make sure if something is going to fail, they want to know in advance so they can go and deal with it. So you're not out of a revenue generating situation for days or weeks or so. The other use case that we're seeing is for manufacturing companies that have manufacturing facilities that may not have smart devices on their products, but they certainly want to monitor the health and the efficiency of their production environment. So if you're familiar with OEE, Operational Equipment Effectiveness, it's a top KPI, a key performance indicator, that describes the availability and the quality of your manufacturing facility, right? And so not only OEE, but predictive OEE. So not only having a cockpit or a dashboard of the health of your production facility, but being able to tell in advance based on sensor readings that are coming in from the machines on the floor, be able to tell in advance if there's a likelihood that the OEE value is going to come down, right? All of these use cases are perfect for a data platform that can handle real-time data at scale with built-in analytics. I want to talk a little bit about big data and analytics. So as Hiroshi mentioned, we have a complete analytics platform that is built into the product. So distributed SQL at scale, and business intelligence capabilities, and natural language processing capabilities, right? But we also recognize that a lot of our customers have other analytics tools that they're using. So they have teams of data scientists that are using R or Scala or Python or SAS or SPSS or what have you, right? And so we really want to have an open platform. And that means being able to take the work that your data scientists are doing in their specialized tools and being able to incorporate it into business processes in our technology. So real-time business processes, right, should be able to be smarter, right? And so that's exactly what we do. We do that through a variety of ways. We integrate with Spark. There's a standard called PMML, where all of the data science tools have the ability to export the models in PMML. We can ingest them. We have a PMML runtime engine to be able to execute them as part of our workflows and our business processes. So this is one of our customers in the healthcare space. So what they do is they take a ton of data from our operational systems as well as from other systems, and they run machine learning algorithms. They create machine learning algorithms that will predict a variety, the likelihood of a variety of problems that can happen to different patients. And they don't use our tools to do that, right? They use specialized data science tools. They take those models and they incorporate it into the systems that are running in hospitals. And so when somebody gets admitted to a hospital, those models run as part of the admission process. And so they know when somebody comes in to the hospital if there is an elevated risk that they will have sepsis, they'll get diseases inside the hospital, they'll have cardiac problems, they have an elevated risk of readmission, right? And the models continue to run while the patient is in the hospital because things change. They take new vitals, they have processes that are done while they're in the hospital, right? So not only are they able to improve the care while the patients are in the hospital, but once they're discharged, it continues to run. And so what they found is a whole slew of benefits, one of them being they've been able to reduce readmission rates by 15% based on running these models. So that's a really, I think, a good example of being able to take the advanced analytics, the work of your data scientists, and bake them right into your business processes, whether that's in manufacturing, retail, logistics, IoT, shipbuilding, and so on. I want to talk a little bit about interoperability. And so here's what we mean by interoperability. It's a complete platform, and we have the ability to integrate with applications and data silos. We can leave the data where it is. We can move the data in. We can transform the data, have it match semantically, create seamless composite business processes, which means that you want to automate these business processes and make it look like they're all happening with one system, but there could be tens or hundreds of different back-end systems that are all connected, right? And so, you see that, for example, a lot in logistics, right, where you have to connect all of your back-end systems and those with your partners, right? One of the things that's different about what we provide is all of our interoperability capabilities. You have the ability to embed analytics as part of the business processes, and everything can be stored in the database, even data that's in flight, right? And then, of course, the ability to monitor everything in real time. So this is CFAO. This is the use case that Hiroshi talked about. I want to talk about this in a little bit more detail. So this is one of our customers. They have been around since, I think, the 1800s. They're doing over $4 billion in revenue. They have 10,000 employees. They're a very large company. And they have a lot of back-end systems, and they have 120 different subsidiaries and partners operating in 40 different countries around the world. And so that means there's different currencies, there's a whole range of different systems that all have to be integrated. And as you know, with logistics, right, when somebody places an order, for example, you want that to trigger a seamless business process that can go and execute without human interaction. And the initial problem that they had when they came and started talking to us is it took 2 months to incorporate a new business partner. So that meant when business development came back to IT and said, hey, I have this new partner and I think we can make a lot of money by incorporating their goods, right? The answer was, okay, well, get in the queue, and it's going to take us, once we even get to them, it's going to take 60 days to incorporate them, right? So it's the opposite of being agile. And so incorporating our technology, they cut that 60-day to 2 days. So they're able to incorporate the new business partners in 2 days and not only integrate with their systems and connect with their systems, but incorporate them into the business processes. So what that meant for the business now is they became a lot more agile. They're able to pretty easily incorporate new business partners that they think might move the needle for them, right? And see, is it a good partner? Can it help them? So they're able to take on more partners without the risk that if it doesn't pan out and it's not a highly successful partner, they haven't burned a lot of development time. But once they started using our technology, they found all of these different applications for it because there's so much functionality in the platform. So while other retail companies are shrinking and getting smaller, right, they're growing. So they're launching 80 different shopping malls across the territory, 80 new shopping malls. Everybody else is closing down because of their ability to be agile and IT can be strategic. They're able to go and launch these new initiatives. They created a new e-commerce channel. They took their existing knowledge base that was very labor intensive, so a partner would call and ask questions, technical questions, right? And it would take a couple of days for technical staff to go and research it and get back to them. With our natural language processing tools, it's now self-service, right? So not only can they answer those questions much more quickly, they don't have to staff it with their technical folks, and they have much higher partner satisfaction rates. So that's what digital transformation looks like for that logistics and retail company. And finally, cloud. So Hiroshi also talked about cloud. I think it's a given today. Companies want to be able to deploy wherever it makes the most sense. It might be on-prem if that's the requirement. We still see that a lot in financial services. But you have to be able to support containerization and public clouds, private clouds, right? The ability to run on AWS or Google Cloud Platform or Microsoft Azure, and the ability to support hybrid environments. So what we see a lot is deploying on-premise, but then as workloads dictate, you want to be able to spill over to the cloud. Or you may want to run on AWS and Microsoft Azure for a variety of reasons. For stability and reliability, we've had in the States AWS East go down and you can't watch Netflix for 48 hours and it's a disaster because people can't watch their Netflix. But more importantly, right, if it's a mission critical application and it's not watching a movie, you're relying on the cloud, you want to be able to run in a multi-cloud environment. And finally, simplicity. So I'd like to finish by talking a little bit about what I started with. And that is why it's so critical to try to simplify the stack with the goal of being able to get more done and be more successful with the technical staff that you already have. So we have a lot of customer anecdotes. Novantia, for example, they tell us 80% faster, right? I put that slide up, but we wanted to prove it for ourselves. So we did an experiment. And right next to us in Cambridge is MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and they had a problem. And their problem was they had all of this data associated with one of their departments. It's called the Office of Sustainability. What this department does is they manage all of these sustainability projects like renewable energy and wind and solar and carbon recapture and efficient disposal of waste. So they have 50 different projects and growing across this Office of Sustainability. And each project is different. And it's got lots of data. It's got streaming data, it's got real-time data, it's got research data, it's PDF data, it's in all different formats in each one of these projects, and there's 50 of them. They want to manage all of them, and they want not only an aggregate view, but they want to analyze all of that data in aggregate. So it's really a big sort of multi-model, multi-workload, real-time batch. They want to be able to manage all of it. So it seemed like a perfect project for our technology. So what we did is we worked with 2 different development firms. One firm was very skilled in using point solutions, and one was skilled in using our technology. And we let the university define the requirements, and then we step back. And we let them both go and implement. And so 2 teams implemented exactly the same application, right? Data-driven analytic application with API management and interoperability and different types of analytics and managing different types of data. And then we had an analyst firm work with them to document the results. And here's what they told us. So the firm that was very skilled in using point solutions, so they had been doing this, right, for the entire history of the business, using different point solutions for database and data management and analytics and workflow and interoperability, right? It took 2.5 times the number of developers, far more library that were required. Even though they knew all the tools, they needed to research to understand which were the right ones to bring to bear. Total developer hours, more than 3 times the total developer hours, right? More lines of code. So the takeaway is if you're an implementation firm, for example, and you can be 3 times more productive with the staff, the technical staff that you already have, right? That means you can bring in a lot more business, right? Bring on a lot more clients without having to hire more people. Think about what that can do for your business, right? You generate a lot more revenue, right? But your gross margins increase because you don't have to hire a proportional number of people to manage it. But maybe more importantly for an enterprise, for an end user organization, that means with the staff that you already have, think about how more agile you can be, how much more you can do in terms of implementing these initiatives and being able to try out and experiment new strategic initiatives that might move the needle for your organization. So very quickly, this is the InterSystems Iris data platform. Again, it's built on our long history of innovation in the marketplace, and it takes advantage of what we've done and what we've learned with our previous technologies. By the way, all of our existing technologies, for those of you that have been with us for a while, Cache and Ensemble and INO, they're not going away. We'll continue to support them for as long as you want to continue using them. InterSystems Iris data platform builds on a lot of those capabilities, and for new projects going forward, right, this is what you're going to want to use. So multi-model database. So it's like 5 or 6 different kinds of single-purpose databases, all built into one comprehensive database for dealing with relational, non-relational, object, document, multi-dimensional for business intelligence, the ability to process operational workloads, analytic workloads, workloads on real-time data, all in one data engine, right? We talked about what's in the box for analytics capabilities, the ability to incorporate the work of your data scientists and other analytics tools into your applications and business processes, full interoperability platform, and of course the ability to deploy on-prem to various public cloud, private cloud, and hybrid environments. So I'd like to close with just 2 more slides. This is a Venn diagram. And so, customers and prospects will ask me, where's a good place to look for projects where InterSystems Iris is a good fit, right? And there's so many different types of projects, and I've talked about what we're seeing in different industries and with different customers. But at the intersection of big data, so you want to analyze more data, fast data, bringing down the latency between an event and insight and intelligent actions, advanced analytics, being able to incorporate smarter analytics into these workflows and business processes, application that's got to interoperate with other applications and data sources, and something that you deploy to the cloud or to a hybrid environment. That's a good place to think about, where in your pipeline of projects might InterSystems Iris be a good fit. And so I'd like to conclude with a quote from Rupert Murdoch, who's been around for a long time, and he's seen businesses come and go. And what he just said is this: the world is changing very fast. Big will not beat small anymore, right? Those days are gone. Now it's the fast beating the slow. And we see this all the time. We see this in almost every industry today. And so if you're an upstart, if you're a disruptor, that's very good news. The sky is the limit. But if you're not, and you're a company that's been around for years or decades or a century, right? The world has changed. And all sorts of companies in all sorts of industries are getting disrupted by these upstarts, whether it's in fintech or investech or the New York taxi service, where a medallion used to cost $1.1 million per taxi medallion. Now you can't give them away, right? So if you're in a large company, right, you need to be looking in your rearview mirror because they're coming up fast. So I would like to thank everybody. I hope that was useful. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you for your attention. And I'm around all day, and I'd be delighted to talk to you if you have questions or thoughts for projects. I would be delighted to talk to you. Thank you so much.